Gertzen had a 9-month program at the St. Petersburg State University, and I would like to ask a question about your experience, the workload, and how do you feel about the program in general?
This year or for last year?
For last year.
At Gertzen.
Yeah, at Gertzen.
Good program. I love the RLS program. It's you get a good mixture of language and culture. You're in class 4 days out of 5 a week. For usually 3 para a day, so a para being an hour and a half for the class. You have 4.5 hours of class a day. On the 5th day, you go on excursions around the city, anywhere from museums to cities in the surrounding area. Just little things that increase your knowledge of the Russian, mostly the St. Petersburg culture, but also just Russian culture in general. A lot of rest historical stuff. You might go to Pushkin. Pushkin's apartment, where he died, or check out the Sukhasi Palace where Rasputin was killed, and just a lot of interesting things. As far as the workload goes, I mean, yeah, it's going to be intense. It's Russian. It's all Russian all the time. But it's like anything. It's like anything in life, really. And especially it's like anything in my experience in foreign language. It's you get what you put into it out of it, basically. And if you want to go home and do your homework in half an hour, 45 minutes, you can probably pull it off. But if you want to do the homework right, you're looking at about an hour and a half, 2 hours of work. I mean, that's something else. Maybe about an hour and a half worth of work on a regular basis. But at the end of the day, you get so much more out of it. And like I said, it's like anything else in life, really. It's all. If you want to learn it, you'll learn it. If you're not interested, you won't learn it. So, but I would go into it prepared to work, and prepared to. I mean, you're here for 8 weeks, and it might seem like a long time, but it's really not. I was here for 9 months, and I still feel like it wasn't enough time, to be honest. Because, I mean, there's actually studies done that say the longer you're in a country, in a language-gaining environment, there's actually almost an exponential increase in language gaining. So being here for 8 weeks, unfortunately, almost as soon as you're comfortable living, getting you on the country, getting you on the language, and just feeling almost at home, you're going to go back home, and that's going to be interesting. Unfortunately, it couldn't be longer. It's better if it's longer, but that's a personal decision, of course.
You mentioned that you lived in the host family.
Yes.
What about that experience?
Yes, host family. Host family was a great experience, to be honest. I know some people are always afraid of host families and are really worried that it's going to be this awful, torturous experience. And my experience was nothing like that. My host family was very nice, very understanding, very flexible with my schedules, habits. They basically worked around me. Of course, I mean, they got their own things going on. You got to work around their schedule too. It's kind of, you learn to live with people again. It's not the easiest thing at first, because especially if you're coming from an environment where you're living on your own, be it in the dorms or in your own apartment or whatnot, and then you go to live with host family. Of course, you're living with parents again, who are not yours, or a grandmother who is not yours, but they care about you almost in the exact same way. And so for an American, that's a little uncomfortable at first, because you feel you don't need it. You feel you're an adult, and I don't need them to worry about me and things like this. But it's because they care. It's actually amazing that they do care as much as they do. I feel that a lot of other cultures, maybe they would just feed you, house you, and send you on your way, and they wouldn't care so much about. They wouldn't take care of you when you're sick. Wouldn't take care of you or call you when you're out late, make sure you're not dead on the street. But Russian families will do that. And so be prepared for that. Also Russian intonation sometimes grates on Americans in a way that we're not used to. We think we're being yelled at, but we're not. And the Russians, what's the best way to put it. They yell out of love, but they're not really yelling. To Americans, it's not that they're yelling at you. To a Russian, it's just a normal conversation. So you gotta take that with a big grain of salt and be prepared for it. The best advice I can give is be prepared for the unexpected, because it's all gonna happen. There was, when I was on my orientation last year, one of the Moscow resident director had an amazing quote. He said, "Nothing happens in Russia until the exact moment it occurs." And it may sound absurd and logical and obvious, but it's so true, because nothing in Russia can be predicted with any sort of accuracy. That includes the host family thing. But to be honest, the host family experience it's fun. And really, as far as language again goes, it's the only way to do it, because they will guarantee that you will have contact with native Russian speakers on a daily basis. And it's probably the single best resource for Russian language and conversation with a native speaker. Because it's going to be hard to find. I mean, admittedly, you're not going to walk into Russia and have a ton of friends hang out with that are Russian speakers. And so the Russian family, most of them, provides that for you while you're finding your friends, while you're meeting Russians. But at the same time, their job is to speak to you. I mean, it's to feed you, house you, well, not clothe you, of course, but feed you, house you, take care of you, but to speak with you. And a lot of them, and they understand that as part of their responsibilities and duties, and so they're going to talk to you, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but, I mean, not uncomfortable because it's the conversation topics, but because it's uncomfortable to speak to someone in a language that you're not fluent in yet. But it's the best way. It really is the single best way to increase your fluency, especially in the short time that you will be in Russia. Like I said, it's an everyday thing, and it's so useful. And I could have lived in the dorms if I chose host family, and I did it again this year. I'm on my program for this year too, so I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but you're here to learn the language, so in the long run, it's better.
Спасибо большое, Джастин.
Пожалуйста.